Good afternoon, all. Welcome to today's Samvad talk by Professor Priyanka Das. Her talk is titled Joint Optimal Relay and Antenna Selection for Cooperative Cognitive Radio Networks, where Priyanka will be telling us more interesting aspects of wireless spectrum utilization in the futuristic 6G wireless networks. Cognitive radio is a spectrum sharing technology used for improving the utilization of the scarce spectrum. In her last Samvad talk, she had spoken about the role secondary users played in improving the spectrum utilization of cognitive radio networks and how her proposed model of practically motivated channel state information model for an underlay cognitive radio network with multiple primary receivers can improve the performance of interference constrained secondary users. So in today's talk, she will be talking of using MIMO, that's multiple input, multiple output with antenna selection technology and cooperative relaying with relay selection technology, again to improve the performance of interference constrained low priority cognitive users while maintaining the quality of service for high priority users. Thus, we see the running theme in her work on improving the performance of secondary users without compromising the primary users for maximizing spectrum utilization in a cognitive radio network. Professor Das has research interests in the areas of design and performance analysis of the next generation wireless communication systems and the physical layer security. She holds a PhD from the Indian Institute of Science after a BSc in physics from the University of Burdwan, West Bengal, BTech degree in radio physics and electronics from the University of Calcutta, and the MTech degree in digital signal processing from the Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. She has been with IIIT as a faculty member since 2018. She had also worked with Dell Research and Development, Bangalore, and interned at the Nokia Siemens Networks, Bangalore. So without much ado, I would like to welcome Priyanka to give her Samvad talk. Off to you, Priyanka.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Jaya, for this introduction. Let me begin today's talk. So this is extension of whatever I have spoken in the last year Samvad talk, but a little bit more advanced technology has been incorporated, which is multiple input, multiple output system. So without doing much further, so let me begin from the basics. So the title of the talk says it's a joint optimal relay and antenna selection. So we are going to select a relay and antenna jointly in an optimal sense for cooperative cognitive radio network. So there are some cooperative relaying network and cognitive radio network, and in this we will be going to select some relay and antenna together optimally. So now I have to describe each and individual entity in this. Here is a brief outline of my talk. So I will first address a very crucial problem in the upcoming wireless next generation wireless system, that is the spectrum scarcity issue. And this is more prominent in the context of Internet of Things. Why this is so, I will describe. Next, in order to handle some problems in cognitive radio networks, we have to go for some diversity techniques. And in this particular talk, I will elaborate on two important spatial diversity techniques, one by using cooperative relaying and another by using multi-antenna technology, which in short also called multiple input, multiple output. Then we will see some performance analysis of the network and followed by the numerical results. So let me begin with the evolution of mobile communication. So in this particular picture, you are seeing the generation from the first generation, second generation, third, fourth, fifth. and it is shown in two forms. One is research and standardization, which is shown in the dotted line, and another is commercialization. So when 1G begins in the year of 1980s, here it was purely analog in nature. There is no digital communication concept in that time. And which technology was basically used for 1G is the frequency division multiple access. So basically, the geographical area, the entire bandwidth specified, is divided into chunks of bandwidth, and each will be given to some set of users. But this scenario is not scalable as the number of users are going to increase. So next, we saw the second generation, which basically is a outcome of the standards Global System for Mobile, GPRS, Edge Communication. So from this 2G onwards, digital communication plays, and here we see TDMA or time division multiple access techniques are coming instead of FDMA. In the after 2000, like 2000 or 2005, in this year, the 3G mobile communication came into picture. The basic technology that was being used for third generation mobile system was basically CDMA, or wideband wide code division multiple access. There is the high speed packet access protocol and HSPA+. So basically, the spread spectrum technique is introduced in third generation mobile communication system in the year of 2005 or 2007 onwards, and then it was commercialized. So we see, but there are some other disadvantages of 3G. It was not capable of transmitting high-speed multimedia services, though it was basically meant for voice and SMS kind of thing. But when you talk about transferring your video or audio signals, then we see some, it's not the data rate or the efficiency, spectral efficiency is not going to be that much higher. So in this scenario, the next generation of mobile communication which came into picture is the 4G. And the fourth generation, when it the research started around 2009 or 2010, and it was commercialized by 2012. So in this fourth generation, the basic technology or the most important technology was long-term evolution, LTE or LTE advanced. In the year of 2025, when almost 5G 2020 onwards, we see now in this current situation, we are dealing with 5G, right? So, so basically we see as the generations evolves, the mobile communication improves. It supports a faster data rate and higher capacity and more number of users. Okay, so fifth generation technology basically meant for applications called online gaming or low latency applications. Okay, it takes some and technology like MIMO, multiple input, multiple output, millimeter wave technology, full duplex schemes, and so on. But we see one basic trend when we talk about one generation after another generation is the never-ending growth in mobile data traffic. So this picture summarizes kind of data traffic is coming per month in the unit EB, which nothing but exabytes, which is 10 to the power 18 bytes. So this picture shows that from the year 2020 onwards, we see the traffic per month is actually increasing exponentially. So here we have two lines. One is without machine to machine data, which is the blue curve, and another is the orange one, which is with machine to machine data. So in this current generation 5G, or when we talk about 6G or beyond 5G systems, we will see not only the mobile devices are connected, or not only one mobile station or laptop is connected to the base station, but also there will be a drastic amount of machine to machine communications or device to device communications. And when we incorporate this kind of high-tech technology into our future wireless communication systems, we have to support a never-ending growth of mobile data traffic. So this one of the basic example which all of us know is the IoT, or integrated smart city applications. So why this large amount of data, from where they are coming? So when we talk about IoT integrated smart city, so basically smart, right? The word smart can be realized in different varieties of sense. We talk about smart traffic, which includes autonomous vehicles, smart home, where all of your items in the home like refrigerators, your AC, your washing machine, all of them will be connected to the internet. So you can imagine how much amount of data will be connected, will be flowing over the wireless channel. The third most important scenario use cases we can think of healthcare, where we talk about remote surgery in the rural areas where there is no proper doctors or nurses. You can do remote surgery provided you have a good internet connection. Environmental monitoring, your pollution level in the air. There are some smart homes, smart street lights, and so on, which all can be monitored over the air automatically. Industrial monitoring, in the factories and all, there can be multiple devices running, multiple machines running, which can be connected over the internet, and you can operate without going for manual power. So all of this IoT integrated smart city applications will need device to device connectivity for sure. And the estimation says by the year of 2025 by Cisco, total number of connected device can be going to 50 billion. It's a huge amount, huge number. So now the basic question comes, the challenge, ever growing demand for more spectrum availability. So where is the spectrum, or where is the radio frequency resources available to support these billions of devices connected into the internet, which can generate these IoT integrated smart city applications, which are meant for future wireless communication system. So this is one of the key challenge in the our next generation systems, or even in the 5G. So when you talk about spectrum, right? So you know a lot of things about frequency bands. We have studied it from our classic class 12 physics classes, right? So the spectrum which I talk about ranges from 3 Hz to 300 gigahertz. So you see that the spectrum is already pre-allocated. 3 to 30 Hz submarine communication, 3 to 300 AC power grid, mine, AM radio, when this is the very earlier generations when we have this radio, FM radio, television broadcast, wireless communications where we deal with our research, satellite communications. So it's a 3 to 330 gigahertz. So the spectrum is well allocated, okay? And different spectrum bands are already fully allocated. So what do you mean by fully allocated? So basically, there are some licensed bands which are allocated to these particular applications, and you cannot take this band for your own purpose. These are already allocated to some licensed users. So that's how the current situation is. Now, if you ask yourself the right question, okay, the spectrum is fully allocated, but is the spectrum is utilized almost 100% of the time? So that's the right question to ask. The spectrum is scarcity. There is a shortage of spectrum. I have to take advantage of the already allocated spectrum. But how can I do it? Is the spectrum is utilized 100% of the time, which is being already allocated? Now, coming to this answer to this question, we talk about spectrum usage. The answer is no. The spectrum which is already allocated is not being utilized 100% of the time. Now, this picture in the left hand side, you can see this is nothing but the amplitude of the amplitude is nothing but the amount of spectrum is being allocated, and we are plotting frequency in the x-axis versus the amplitude or the amount of spectrum usage in the y-axis. And you see the lines which are shown in the green color, and as the line height is increasing, that means it is being utilized and that percentage of the time. But you see there are some empty frequency band. So here you see some small lines which are kind of sparsely used. These are almost, there is a very long frequency range where the spectrum is not being utilized. So we see that less than 6% of the whole spectrum is being utilized at a particular instant of time. Okay, so this is the trigger, this is the trick. Radio spectrum is already allocated, but spectrum is underutilized. Okay, underutilized meaning spectrum is not being utilized most of the time. So this leads to a new concept called dynamic spectrum access. What do you mean by dynamic spectrum access? So spectrum is allocated, but you can access dynamically. What do you mean by dynamically? That's how I want to go into a new concept, rethinking about cognitive radio. Okay, so this is not a new concept. Cognitive radio is being introduced for the first time in the year of 1999, almost 20 years back, by Mitola et al. And it is now rethinking from the next generation wireless communication point, and it is being we have seen a couple of papers appear 2019, 2017, which are talking about technical issues of cognitive radio based IoT systems or cognitive radio based Internet of Things application architecture. So this basic cognitive radio, which was being introduced long back, can it be useful in the current system or not? If it is useful, how? And what are the possible advantages of cognitive radio? So without spending much time, let me formally define what do you mean by cognitive radio. So as I mentioned, it was a revolutionary solution for efficient spectrum usage. Okay, so what do you mean by efficient spectrum usage? Coming to the definition of cognitive radio, it's an intelligent wireless communication system that senses its surroundings environment and adapts its internal states to the statistical variation in the incoming RF signals by making corresponding changes in certain operating parameters in real time. What do you mean by these long 4-line sentences? Right, so there are cognitive radio is nothing but, in English, plain English, if I want to tell you what do you mean by cognitive radio. So let's say there are two parties or two types of users. Okay, one is primary user and one is secondary user. Primary users are nothing but they are licensed, or the spectrum is allocated, they pay for it, so the spectrum is licensed to them. The secondary users, they have not paid any money to buy the spectrum, but we are doing dynamic spectrum access. So what do you mean by DSA? It's nothing but the secondary users can take the benefits from the spectrum which is not being utilized by the primary users, because we have seen that the spectrum is not utilized for most of the time. And that's how the thought or the research goes into the directions that if it is not being utilized for most of the time, why not allow the other users to take advantage of it without causing much disturbance to the licensed user. What do you mean by disturbance? Here, causing negligible interference to the primary communication. So this was the main motivation. Okay, secondary users can take advantage by using the primary spectrum, but provided they should not violate the primary user quality of service. That's the very strict condition. So you can take advantage without violating my communication. So primary users network design cannot be changed. Okay, will be unchanged. So there are two access modes of cognitive radio. Okay, these are two popular access modes. So in dynamic spectrum access can be done in two ways. First, interwave CR, interwave mode of cognitive radio, as the picture says. So we see some kind of timeline diagram. This is the time and this is when which party is on and which party is off. So you see that when primary users are transmitting, when primary users is on, secondary user is off. When secondary is on, primary is off. So at a particular instant of time, either primary can transmit or secondary can transmit. So it's nothing but secondary users will sense the spectrum. And if it senses that the spectrum is not utilized by the primary users, secondary users will use that particular spectrum to communicate its own data to its own particular receiver. But when it sees the primary users are back and they want the spectrum, at the same instant, secondary users need to vacate the spectrum. And then the primary users can continue their communication. So it's kind of on and off, but not on at the same time. So secondary transmitter transmits only when primary transmitter is off. And hence, since they are on one at a time, there is no interference caused to the primary. So this is interference avoided mode cognitive radio. Okay, this is also called interwave mode of cognitive radio, which is not, which basically senses the spectrum. If the spectrum is empty, then only secondary users will access that spectrum, otherwise it will vacate. And it will not cause any interference to the primary. The second mode, which is underlay mode of cognitive radio, here both of them can be on at the same time. So the basic notion is primary and secondary users are transmitting simultaneously on the same spectrum. Okay, there is a catch. If they are using simultaneously, obviously the secondary users are causing interference to the primary. So how do you handle this interference? So there is a strict constraint on the interference to the primary receiver. So primary receivers are agreed upon the policy that secondary users can cause interference, but not beyond a threshold. So there is a maximum tolerable interference constraint or maximum tolerable interference limit. My interference to the primary will not exceed that tolerable level. Okay, so this is these are already very well known in the literatures, which is these two particular modes of cognitive radio. Okay, so now coming to, so after telling about some history about cognitive radio and its access modes, it's the right time to introduce what people are thinking about CR based IoT. So this is the picture I have borrowed from this particular paper, which appears in IEEE Internet of Things journal in 2019. So this paper says the following. So there is a cognitive radio based IoT setup, right? Internet of Things, all of us are very familiar with it. It's nothing but let's talk the primary network. So basically cognitive radio consists of two networks. One is primary network, where there is a primary transmitter, or we call base station. There is a primary receiver, which is a PU here, PU here, PU here. So it can take this yellow line where the primary communications is going place. And there is a secondary network, which is basically these IoT systems. Okay, so as I have mentioned that the IoT devices can take benefits from these cognitive radio services. So what is this cluster? So it's nothing but IoT, there are a lot of sensors, sensor nodes are there. They are ad hocly distributed in the space. And they called, let's say, CM. CM is nothing but cluster member or sensor nodes. These this has some terms and conditions or some requirements for the centered cluster member. But the overall idea, this cluster member will transfer some information to a central entity called cluster head, CH. And then this CH will, all these CH will send their data to a sync node, which is this. Then the communication, so basically both the primary and secondary networks are exist. So the communication can be in two ways. If they are using underlay mode of cognitive radio, both the communications can occur simultaneously. If they are using interwave mode, only primary can transmit, and when primary is not transmitting, the secondary network, which consists of the IoT devices, can transmit. And in this way, they can take benefit of the cognitive radio, which is called CR IoT network architecture. Okay. So there are certain requirements for the sensor nodes. Obviously, they are low transmit power device because they are driven by the batteries, and I don't want the battery to dry too quickly. The rechargeable option I should not recharge it too frequently. It also has to be compact size, low weight, and the connectivity should be persistent connectivity. Okay. So basically it depends on the applications also, in which application these IoT devices are meant for. If it's something like a smart parking facility or industrial monitoring, so almost continuously they need to report to this cluster head. So this is one example of CR IoT architecture. So now let's look at what has been already standardized in IoT in the license spectrum band. So there are typically two technology. One is called, so they are basically standards, 3GPP IoT technology. One is narrowband IoT. Narrowband IoT basically meant for indoor communication, kind of indoor coverage. The bandwidth for this particular thing was taken to be 200 kilohertz, and the transmit power was of the order of 23 dBm. Okay, and the second is enhanced machine type communication, or EMTC, where the bandwidth is larger, 1.4 megahertz. It's also meant for outdoor coverage. Okay, and the transmit power requirement was almost the same. So these are the IoT technology already standardized over the license spectrum, and which spectrum, which frequency band it was being used. So it has two, what I have got from web search, it was ISM, industrial, scientific and medical band, which is basically 2.4 gigahertz, and Wi-Fi at 5 gigahertz was being utilized. But there is a scope, a lot of spectrum from 400 megahertz to 700 megahertz, which are also called TV white spaces. These are basically empty spectrum, and that can be utilized for low power, long range wireless IoT applications. Okay, so there is a scope in if you want to use in cognitive radio based IoT for long range communications, can use in this particular spectrum. Okay, so that's the kind of guidelines. Okay, so there are a lot of devices needs to be connected over this fully allocated spectrum, and there is a scope. If you can use cognitive radio technology, you can support a lot of devices together without causing much disturbance or much violence to the primary user communication. So in one line, CR efficiently utilizes spectrum resources for the sensor nodes. So now the next question is coming. Okay, you are talking about CR for IoT. Which mode do you select? You have talked about interwave mode, underlay mode. So which mode do you prefer? Okay, so it depends on IoT application. So let's say most of the sensor nodes are, we need a low transmit power or energy efficient IoT devices. And we have seen that if you talk about interwave mode of cognitive radio, that you need to sense the spectrum. When the spectrum is empty, then only the secondary sensor devices can take the spectrum. So it's basically sensing. So there are a lot of energy can be consumed for sensing purpose and switching purpose. So this is not energy efficient when we talk about interwave mode of cognitive radio, which is looked into the literature aggressively. The next mode, which is underlay mode, although there has to be underlay mode, as I mentioned, the primary users need to tolerate at least a certain amount of interference level from that secondary users, because both of them are transmitting simultaneously. But there are some advantages, because you do not have to consume your energy for sensing and switching purpose. And also there is, if you want continuous connectivity for the sensor nodes, which are my unlicensed devices, you can prefer underlay mode, because both of them can transmit simultaneously. You don't have to wait for when the primary spectrum is not being utilized by the primary users. So in these directions, I pick up underlay cognitive mode in the coming slides. So, but when we talk about underlay cognitive radio, this is the challenge we have to keep in our mind, that the interference caused to the primary users should be constrained. Okay, so these interference constraint, what do you mean by interference should be constrained? So basically you can think of this, you can think of like this. So what is the interference power? Let's say the secondary users are transmitting by this power PT. Secondary users, you can also think that these are my sensor nodes or IoT nodes. The transmit power is PT. And what is the interference power caused to the primary user? This is nothing but the transmit power times the channel from the primary, from the secondary transmitter to the primary receiver. Okay, so this is my channel gain. So transmit power into the instantaneous channel gain from secondary to primary. This has to be less than or equal to some tolerable limit. Okay, let's call the tolerable limit to be I threshold, interference threshold. So when you talk about this kind of inequality, which is nothing but the interference constraint for the primary users, this automatically tells an upper limit of the transmit power of the secondary devices. So this is nothing but ITH by mod H square, right? So this particular equation tells you the secondary transmitters, even if they are, let's say they are allowed to transmit at 23 dBm, which we just saw, okay, from the IoT standards. Let's say my maximum transmit power allocated to these devices or sensor nodes are 23 dBm, but I need to adhere to this particular interference constraint. So I cannot, sometimes it may happen that mod H square value is too high, and that causes the maximum transmit power to a very low value. So I am not utilizing in full power. So even if I am able to allocate, even if I am able to allow 23 dBm transmit power, but I have to adhere to the interference constraint, and my transmit power is limited by this particular equation. So this is nothing but, so when you talk about a lower transmit power about the secondary transmitters, which will automatically limits the secondary user's performance, because your transmit power is low, and this will give you the low bit error rate performance for the secondary communication. Primary communication we are not bothered about, because primary I am just maintaining this tolerable threshold power. So primary users know that they are suffered a interference power, maximum interference power is ITH, and they will continue their own communication. But the secondary users, which are at the lower priority users, they need to follow this transmit power policy. Okay, so now the question comes, okay, the secondary users are taking advantage of the spectrum at the expense of the reduced transmit power, or at the expense of their performance degradation. So the next obvious question, or the right question for research, is to ask how to improve the secondary user's performance. Here is the different techniques for using improving the secondary user performance. And in wireless communications, when I will teach the wireless communication course, we will discuss this in very detail. The first and foremost thing, how to improve the performance of wireless channel, is nothing but utilizing diversity techniques. So what do you mean by diversity? So let's say there is a transmitter. This is my transmitter, and this is my mobile station. Okay, I have this link, wireless link, which we called the channel is a fading channel, or the wireless channel is me. So when I talk about the wired line channel, so basically this is a optical fiber or something. What is the mod H value? This is nothing but 1. There is no such fading here. So when we, so in this case, whatever you receive, that is nothing but whatever you transmit, plus there is a AWGN noise that is also present in wireless channel. But in wireless channel, on top of this, you have additional parameter H into X, and H is nothing but the wireless channel. And this is very, very unpredictable in nature. So it can be more, it can be high, depending on the environment, mobility of the users, and a lot of other factors. So in this particular scenario, the best way to improve the performance of this communication is by introducing diversity technique. So what is the main, if I want to define diversity, create multiple independent paths between transmitter and receiver. So what do you mean by independent paths? So it can be something like this. Okay. So I have one path, but I am introducing different paths. Okay. 1, 2, 3. I have 3 paths now. So now you can tell me, even if their path, which is the direct path or line of sight path from the transmitter to the receiver, is in very bad or poor channel condition, there can still be another path which is a higher channel condition or a better channel condition. So even if I am not receiving the data from one of the path, I can receive the data in a high with high probability of reception. I can, and at the receiver, I can aggregate these channel informations and I can get some better performance. Okay, so this is nothing but diversity techniques. Diversity can be achieved in different ways. Time and frequency diversity. What do you mean by time and frequency? So basically, let's say I am transmitting symbol X. Now I will transmit the same symbol X after certain instant of time. Okay, after certain instant of time, let's say this is my delta of t. After delta t time, I am transmitting the same symbols again and again. So let's say this symbols is corrupted. There is a probability this is correctly received, this is again wrongly received, and so on. So in this way, I am creating multiple independent replicas of the same signal. This is also a notion of diversity, and this is called time domain diversity. Similarly, you can transmit in different frequency bands. Okay, and the frequency band, obviously the channel should be changing from one time to another time. This not be too close to each other, so that the channel is almost same. So even if you are receiving wrongly, the second instant also you will receive wrongly. No, so there should be a minimum level of delta t that we call coherence time, or similarly for frequency called coherence bandwidth. So in this way, we can achieve the diversity. This is one way of achieving the diversity, either in time or by using in different frequency. You send the same signal x. This is not spectrally efficient. Why? Because you are wasting your resources. Okay, you are taking long time to transmit one symbol, or you are taking long frequency band to sending one particular symbol. You are wasting resources. The second way of achieving the diversity technique is the spatial diversity. And spatial diversity is nothing but, okay, I will be transmitting the symbol over different paths, which I have just described here. So this is path 1, path 2, path 3. How do you create these paths? First one, technology which already very famous, multiple inputs, multiple antenna systems. So basically, we will have a different antennas at the transmitter, and there is a minimum level lambda separation between one antenna to the other antenna. Okay, so we talk about if the separation is less than lambda, the channel is not going to be independent, because now remember we have to maintain the independent paths characteristic. And the second way is nothing but relay based cooperative communication. Now I am coming into in depth. What is that? So we talk about multiple antenna systems. Okay, so this is nothing but we are now deviating from single antenna transmitter, single antenna receiver to multiple antenna transmitter, multiple antenna receiver. So this is your transmitter end and this is your receiver end. So you see there are NT number of antennas at the transmitter and NR number of antennas at the receiver. Okay, and obviously there are some advantages by using multiple antenna technology over single input single output system or SISO system. What are these advantages? It improves spectral efficiency or multiplexing gain. It also decreases BER and outage probability, or it gives diversity gain. So what is this technique? What are these two particular things? I will just describe in the slide next. But the most important thing I just want to stress here, that if you have multiple antennas at the transmitter and multiple antennas at the receiver, or even on the same node, let's say transmitter is using NT antenna, receiver is using one antenna, that's also fine. So the main challenge or the main problem in implementation wise is that you need to have NT number of RF chains, and these RF chains are nothing but these are the your analog to digital circuit, digital converter, then mixer, band pass amplifier, and so on. So these are nothing but your analog circuits that are actually there in order to transmit from the electrical signal to a electrical wave or electromagnetic wave that can be transmitted to the antenna. So this is not cheap, this is costly. And when we talk about NT number of RF chains, and as the number of antennas are increasing, the number of RF chains are also increasing, and this is not cost effective solution. So we think of an alternate solutions, which I will come next, which can give almost the same benefits of utilizing MIMO techniques, but compromising on the complexity. That is the number of RF chains requirement, I want to make it to less than that. Okay, if it is one, this is perfectly okay. So how can I do that? We are coming in the next couple of slides. So before going to that, I just want to give you an example of what do you mean by multiplexing gain, what do you mean by diversity gain. So let's look into the picture. Let's say there is a transmitter which has 3 antennas. There is a receiver which also has 3 antennas. Okay. So now the multiplexing gain is nothing but how many independent paths you can create between the transmitter and the receiver. Independent paths meaning, okay, so we are transmitting different symbols over that. Okay, so these are X1, X2, X3. These are not the same symbol. So this is nothing but you are improving your data rate when you are transmitting different symbols over this antenna. And this is how you achieve your rate gain or capacity benefit. Okay, so this is your R is nothing but 3. So this is your spatial multiplexing gain, and this maximum value of that is nothing but minimum of NT, NR, minimum of the number of transmit antenna at the transmitter end and receiver end. In other words, when we talk about diversity gain, is nothing but same symbol is being transmitted over all the antennas. X, same symbol X is transmitted, and you measure your probability or bit error rate. Okay, and then you see how much is the probability as a function of SNR. SNR is your transmit SNR. It's the transmit power divided by the noise variance. And so basically it's nothing but a probability of error curve which is decaying with respect to SNR. And as this number is higher and higher, the rate of decrement of probability of error is also higher and higher. And this factor 9 is nothing but 3 into 3. Okay, so this is if there are NT number of transmit antenna and NR number of receive antenna, the number of diversity gain is NT times NR. The maximum diversity gain you can achieve. And in MIMO, we are interested in finding out what is the maximum diversity gain your system will provide. Okay, this kind of question. So there is a trade-off, diversity versus multiplexing. You cannot obtain full diversity order and full multiplexing gain. No. Let's say, so if I have to compromise in order to gain something. So this is relation is nothing but this. So this is the graph shows if you want to achieve your multiplexing gain to the fullest, mean of MT, MR, your diversity gain is 0. If you want to achieve multiplexing gain to the least, you can go for your highest diversity gain, MT into MR. Okay, there is a trade-off. So now coming to the question to that, if I want to reduce the number of RF chains, what do I do? So this is the technique called antenna selection. So what is antenna selection? Now, antenna selection technology is nothing but you will, at one particular instant of time, you transmit the symbol from the best antenna. What do you mean by best antenna? Well, that depends on the channel. Okay, so let's say I have NT number of antennas at the transmitter and receiver has only one antenna. Okay, let's say the channel is H1, HK or HNT. It is not a bad idea. I will pick up from that antenna which gives me the highest channel gain, because the received power is nothing but transmit power into the channel power mod h square. So that's one notion called antenna selection, selecting the best antenna possible. Okay, and that selection needs to be done in real time. Provided these antenna should know all the channel information from the transmitter to the receiver. So it needs only one RF chain, okay, that this chain is dynamically switched to which antenna being selected. And it can be shown that by judiciously choosing the antenna, what do you mean by optimal selection, you can achieve full diversity order, NT, in this case, NT into 1. Okay, now coming to, I have to wrap it up. I have to, So coming to our next spatial diversity technique called cooperative communication. I have described in last semester also. So there is a source and destination, and you can create multiple paths over space. Okay, so there are different relays which are nothing but helping nodes. They transmit the data, that they process the data, and they forward it to the destination. So this also provides spatial diversity, and diversity gain is nothing but of the order of number of relays. So as the number of relay is more, the diversity gain is more, and diversity gain is of the order of the number of relays. But unlike the MIMO technique, it will not provide any multiplexing gain, because there is only one source and it is transmitting the symbol X. There is no option of transmitting X1, X2, X3 parallel. Now, I'm not coming to this relaying protocols. So we can now we know what do you mean by MIMO, what do you mean by antenna selection, what do you mean by cooperative communication. So next I come into one particular aspect of cooperative communication. Like we have selected the antenna, here we are going to select the relay. And why you want to go into select the relay? Basically there are some problems if all the relays participate in forwarding the data to the destination. So let's say the source transmit the data to the destination and to all the relays, and relay will process the data and forward to the destination. All the relays will participate, but there are some problems. So they need to be synchronized with respect to each other, or even they are transmitting sequentially. This needs lot of spectrum. It's not spectrally efficient. They need one different number of slots in order to do that. So one best way, select only the best relay, and then allow the best relay only to transmit the data to the destination. Like we had done the best antenna only for the antenna selection. So the best relay selection is very popular in literature. So it avoids synchronization problem, and it needs only 2 time slots, because one slot from here to here, second slot from this to this. And this is the important thing. By judiciously picking up the best relay, you can still achieve the full diversity order, the total number of relays L. Now we marry the two techniques together, relay selection and antenna selection. Okay, so now coming to our problem, there is a source, there is a destination, a lot of antennas at the source, lot of antennas at the destination, and different number of relays. There are R1 to RL, total L relays, and the relays can have multiple antennas, or it can also have single antenna depending on the problem. So now the problem, what do you mean by relay and antenna selection? That is the focus of today's part. So you have to choose the best antenna at the source, the best antenna at the destination, and the best relay. Let's say the ith relay is the best. For that ith relay, which transmit antenna do you pick up? Which receive antenna do you pick up? So basically antenna selection at every node, and not only that, the best relay you have to select. And you have to do this jointly. Okay. How do you do that? Optimal sense. Okay, so but this problem is studied, joint antenna and relay selection is studied for conventional cooperative network. What do you mean by conventional cooperative network? Without the concept of cognitive radio. Okay, there is no primary secondary concept. This is the conventional network. There is a source, destination, multiple relays. Which antenna do you pick up at the source and destination node, and which relay do you pick up? So this is already solved problem in this setup. But coming to the problem of underlay CR, which is our focus, this problem is open. Now, what are the changes when we talk about the CR scenario compared to the conventional cooperative setup? So this already done. If you just only look into the secondary network, this is solved. But when we put the primary guys on top of that, there is a primary transmission which is happening simultaneously with the secondary transmission. There are a lot of things you have to keep into your mind. So first of all, the interference from the secondary source and the relay to the primary receiver. So which is this link and this link. These are the culprit for the secondary communication. Similarly, when primary is talking, both of them are talking together. So when primary is talking, he will cause interference to the secondary receivers, this and this. So these are the extra thing that you need to take care of. So conventional relay and antenna selection, which depends on the link from source to relay and relay to destination. Okay, and also which performance metric. But when we talk about underlay CR, this interference links also you need to consider. So in this case, the joint relay and antenna selection policy, which was proposed for conventional one, will not going to be optimal when we talk about underlay cognitive radio. Now this is our goal. Develop optimal relay and antenna selection rule for underlay CR. And in this, we have focused this particular problem, and our contributions was we come up with the optimal relay and antenna selection policy to maximize your signal to interference plus noise ratio at the destination, and we analyzed couple of performance metrics. Just I'm going to go into system model. So this was, we have picked up a simple system to begin with. Source, destination, and we have considered the relays, where the relays consist of single antenna. Okay, so we first focus on the single antenna relay because they can be power constrained devices which might not support multiple antennas. And we considered there is no direct source to destination link present. We considered frequency flat block fading channel. This is some key terms specialized to wireless communication system. Okay, so these are the change from conventional cooperative communication. You need to adhere to the constraint, which is nothing but you need to adhere to the interference power constraint. So the interference power from the source to the primary receiver must be below a tolerable limit called ITH. And also there is a peak transmit power constraint. So my transmit power at the secondary cannot exceed this limit Pmax. And these two constraints together will boil down to PSJ is min of Pmax and this. So now you see that the transmit powers at the secondary, PSJ is nothing but the jth antenna of source, the transmit power of that, and RI is nothing but the ith antenna and relay. These are proportional with the channel gain from the secondary to the primary, right? So this is not random variable. These are no longer fixed. They are governed there. This is the power control policy. So now this is the result. Optimal relay and antenna selection rule in underlay CR. So here I select the best possible relay index, which I called I star, best possible antenna index J star, and antenna index at the destination K star, which give maximizing the SINR. Okay, so this is argmax of the end-to-end SINR, and end-to-end SINR is nothing but the SINR from source to the relay and relay to the destination for that particular option IJK. Okay, and I am maximizing over all three random variables I, J, and K. So this is your best possible thing you can do if you want to get the performance, which is nothing but SINR optimal or outage probability optimal, and the signal to noise ratio is given by this. Okay, so some comments. So this is interference aware, unlike conventional relay and antenna selection policy, because no transmit powers, which we saw, the transmit power is governed by the interference constraint, and this is applicable for any general fading distribution, and also it can be practically implemented. I'm not going to how can be implemented in practice, but this is practically implementable. After that, we derive the performance metric, which is called outage probability. I'm not going to the details, but we just show the results. How do you get the benefit? So here the outage probability is nothing but what is the probability that your SINR at the destination SINR falls below a threshold called gamma TH. Okay, so this is the outage probability, gamma TH, or it also depends on this R, which is the rate. And it shows we have done a couple of things. So in this case, no, the interference threshold is fixed to the value ITH. And here we see there are a lot of curves. So we have plotted outage probability versus system SINR for different number of antennas. NS and ND is nothing but the number of antennas at source, number of antennas at the destination. And gamma I bar is nothing but it depends on ITH, which is your interference threshold. So when for a fixed interference threshold, let's say gamma I bar is 10 dB, when I increase my number of antennas from which is NS equal to 2, ND equal to 3, which is this curve, and this curve stands for NS4, ND5. If I increase number of antennas, I am getting better performance, or my outage probability decreases from this to this. Similarly, you see here to here outage probability decreases. So as we lesser and lesser outage probability, that means your performance is better and better. And you also see that as we relax the constraint or you increase your ITH value, let's say I can hamper with more interference power. Interference power is 15 dB. In that case, your outage probability also decays. But you see, there is a kind of decaying kind of nature and then constant. So this constant part is coming due to the interference constraint, because your power is now fixed after certain SINR. And even if you increase your system SINR, you are not going to get more benefits. Your system kind of saturated, the outage probability is saturated, and hence your diversity order or the rate at which it is decaying is 0. But on the other hand, if you also allow to increase your ITH value with the maximum transmit power Pmax, you see the behavior, this is automatically, this monotonically decreasing function with respect to SINR, because in this case, I am also relaxing the interference threshold. And the same behavior, here we are showing the trends is outage probability versus SINR for different numbers of antennas and relays. And we see as you increase the number of relays, the outage probability improves. Or if you increase the number of antennas, the outage probability improves. And we have shown there is a simulation, analysis, and asymptotic result. Okay? These are almost very closely tied to each other. And in this case, we obtain that full diversity order. What is the full diversity order? This is nothing but the total number of relay time minimum of NS, ND is achieved. Okay, so this is nothing but the rate at which, so you see there is the rate is not saturated. So it is decreasing function with respect to SINR is this particular rate. Okay, so I'm not going to the next thing where we considered a very practical scenario when we do not have a full CSI knowledge of the interference links. In this case, you can do some smarter technique and you can also obtain these two results. But let me summarize whatever we have seen so far. So in summary, I started with a very intuition of why the IoT devices which are being used and will be used in beyond 5G communication systems, CR can find a potential candidate for efficient spectrum usage for IoT application. Then you see, if we talk about CR, we talk that underlay CR scheme will be beneficial because we talk about energy efficient IoT devices which are continuously connected. For that underlay CR, we see that the major constraint is your transmit power is limited. And how do you improve the performance of the secondary users? So in this case, we talk about two spatial diversity technique. One is MIMO, multiple input, multiple output system, and another is cooperative relaying. Basically, we talk about antenna selection technique for MIMO. This is a low cost MIMO technique which achieves almost same diversity benefit as of the utilizing total number of antennas and relaying with the relay selection. Okay, and this if you clumped up these two together, we can get benefit that we can still mitigate the interference constraint, which was the basic primary reason for degrading performance in underlay CR. Then we proposed for this scenario, we proposed an optimal relay and antenna selection rule that analyzes for maximizing the SINR, and we also analyze the outage probability expression, and we have shown that as the number of antennas increase or as the number of relays increase, your outage performance improves. Okay, we have not talked about this, but we have seen these two observations. One is full diversity order is achieved, or basically your performance, your outage probability decreases with respect to SINR monotonically when your interference threshold is going to proportional with the maximum transmit power Pmax, and the diversity gain is lost, or we get almost a flat kind of curve here when ITH is fixed. So this is basically if your primary users are very strict and they are not given the option to increase ITH beyond a certain limit at all. In this case, you whatever trick you do, either increase your number of antennas or number of relays, your outage probability kind of decreasing, and after certain values of SINR is going to be saturated. Okay, so this is the overall idea. Yeah. So with this, I want to conclude my talk, and now I can take some questions.
Thanks, Priyanka. It's been a great talk. So this work has been published in IEEE WCNC 2020, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's give Priyanka a round of applause. So there are a few questions here, Priyanka. So the first question by Dibakar is, one is comparative cost benefit between setting multiple RF chains and multiple relays. Dibakar, would you like to speak as well?
Okay. So Dibakar, your question, what is the comparative cost benefit between setting multiple RF chains and multiple relays? So the benefit of both, so I talked about the both multiple RF chains and multiple relays, but multiple RF chains cost wise will be the cost will be higher compared to the multiple relays, because multiple relay, we can think of it's a single antenna system, what I talked about, but if you talk about only single antenna relay versus a multiple antenna source, so the relays can be thought of virtual antenna setting over the place. So basically the relay are also low power device. So basically if you the thing is, if you want to increase multiple RF chain, that will be more costly compared to increasing multiple relays with single antenna model.
Okay, thanks, ma'am. One more question. Actually, how did you solve the optimization part?
This is very straightforward. The question I posed is which scheme do you pick up? So let me go back to your question. The problem formulation says you have lot of paths. So you have how many possible paths? So for each S, different relays, similarly different relays to the destination. So there are how many possible combination? So L time NS time ND. So these are total number of possible paths I can have. Out of that, I pick up the best one.
So basically,
the metric,
exhaustive search.
This is exhaustive search.
Okay.
This is no convex optimization technique. Nothing. It's just I have the optimization metric, which is nothing but my end-to-end SINR, or in this case, this mean of this function. This is my end-to-end SINR, and I am going to maximize this over all the possible combinations I, J, and K.
Oh, thanks.
Nita, how to perform antenna selection at UV when multiple antenna are closely located? Channel gain won't vary significantly for this case. Okay, so we are assuming antenna selection here is beneficial. At least the separation between the antenna will be of the order of lambda. And I am talking about not to smaller wavelength or not to higher frequency range here. So we talk about sub gigahertz, let's say some 3 to 4 gigahertz, not beyond that. In this case, the lambda parameter will be of the order of, I think, centimeter. And in this case, we can guarantee that we still have independent paths from multiple antennas to the relays, or relay to multiple antennas at the destination. So this problem is crucial when you talk about wave, because in this case the lambda value is too small, and how do you guarantee they are going to be independent paths? But here we not talk about that. So it's a sub gigahertz range application.
Ma'am, actually the thing was we are talking about antenna selections. So at base station it is quite easy for selecting appropriate set of antenna elements. But at UE level, because if in the set of this IoT devices, if my devices are very closely spaced, so I was connecting it to that way that if UE with multiple antenna element in the same set, or different UEs which are very closely located, then in that situation, when we are initiating a single transmitting antenna with multiple receiving antenna, in that way that channel gain won't vary that much significantly. So how we will select appropriate antenna at the UE level?
Okay, so basically this particular selection scheme, we assume that some sort of channel state information is already available. So basically this is some CSI assumption. This is inherently we assume that. So what are these channel state information prior knowledge? The source knows all the channel state information from S to the relay I for each relay, and similarly each relay knows the channel state information from that relay to all the antennas to the destination, and the relay will measure. So basically this will give you this matrix. So how do you know who will do this selection process for this whole system? So basically each relay will pick up its common knowledge, which is your mean of this thing, provided you know your channel gain. So we are assuming that relay knows the interference channel link or the link from the relay to the destination. So this is the relay knows. And how does it know that? By again the feedback based pilot scheme mechanism. So UV is first. So it's kind of first is the channel state information, channel state acquiring state, and then data transmission. So this CSI process is this is underlying assumption. We know if you don't know the CSI, we are not going to select this. Like we are not able to select the best possible things. So the CSI knowledge is here. And the destination, the relay knows which antenna. Let's say the relay 1 gets selected. Now relay 1 knows which antenna is the best antenna for the destination. For that particular, here I am talking about one UV. Your problem of multiple users scenario is different. For the problem of a single UV, the relay will transmit the information, or inherently the relay will send the information to that particular destination, and destination should be beforehand know which antenna should I select, after gaining the knowledge from all the channel state information from that antenna index to that relay. So this is critical, I understand, and this is assumed in this particular work. This is already available. If you do not know this, whole system will break up.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, so if we have no other questions, then we can end the talk. And again, big round of applause for Priyanka.